Hey guys, welcome back to the MSFDN Unfiltered podcast. Now, obviously, today is a sad one because it's the last one. It's going to be the last of the MSFDN Unfiltered podcast. And obviously, because of that, I just want to say that I've really, honestly, just enjoyed being able to do this. I've enjoyed the whole series, and it's been an amazing experience to be able to host this and see everyone come together and just talk about matters that I personally think like they do matter. And like all of us young people coming together and just speaking about them. And I kind of wanted to say as well, like after this podcast, I want you guys to sort of remember the things we've been speaking about. Don't just think, oh, okay, the podcast done, yeah, it's over. Like these matters are important. So do carry some of these conversations or things that you may have learned or come to understand from other people's point of views and like bring them into your everyday life, because a lot of these matters are important to all of us and probably will affect our lives in the next few years to come. So yeah, just try and remember this stuff because it is important. I just want to obviously say, because this is live, that if anyone is watching this for the first time, I apologize that you're only on the last one. But I want to say as well that this podcast has basically been about so far um, all of the things to do with young people's professional, personal, and creative goals in life. Anything to do with it and things that affect it or things that may come to affect it in the future. So it's a whole conversation to do with that anyway. Also, a few things, again, like I normally say, if you are basically going to have a question during the discussion and want to say something, just use the raise your hand button at the bottom of the screen or just type us a little message in the bottom right and we should be able to get to that. Also, if you do hear that someone else is talking or has a question or any conversation is flowing, please do keep your mics on mute because it does cause feedback and it's hard to hear that person. But yeah, let's get started.
Alright guys, today's episode is going to be all about the ongoing back and forth between influencers and marketing. What that basically means is that we will be looking at the state of marketing in the current day and just talking about how this can affect influencers, their approaches to marketing and the difficulties behind it. It's going to be interesting as with the world becoming so much more digital, the state of marketing for influencers has changed drastically. To start our discussion off, the question is, what kind of difficulties do you think influencers have now in regards to marketing compared to 10 years ago?
Sarah, I'm happy you're here. Go right ahead. You are on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, my bad. I think compared to 10 years ago, it's changed a lot. And I think that's a lot of help from TV shows, for example. Like, I started when I was 16 influencing, and I thought everyone was laughing at me. And I was like, why are you doing that? Like, you're not going to get anywhere. It's not even a real job, blah, blah, blah. And then I watched Love Island when it came out, and there were people going on there like, yeah, my job's influencing. And I was like, hang on. So this is actually a real thing. And I think because of big shows like that, many more people have come into the industry and it's made it a bigger thing. But I think that's because the people have made it into a job. I don't reckon it's because, the world sees it as a job, if that makes sense.
100%. I think as well, like that whole Love Island thing you said, I think that's got a lot to do with it. Like there's a lot more light shone on these forms of marketing. At the same time, the influencers are being affected in a big way. Like to me, what it looks like is, say 10 years ago, if you was a beautician and you wanted to market your brand, you've got to do it in a whole different way to how they do it now. Social media probably didn't have a lot to do with it. And I think there's a positive and a negative to that. Like the positive is that it's so much easier. You know what I mean? So much easier to put your stuff out there. But you see, the negative is instead of 10 people trying to do what you're doing, that's now 1,000 people. And then there's 10,000. Do you know what I mean? So to have that impact, I think, is one of the biggest things that probably influencers have to deal with. You know what I mean? Ellie, you've said something in the chat. Okay, so Ellie said they would have to go in public and sell themselves. Even back in the day, they would go door to door and sell themselves and their brand. That's really true. And I think that's the whole gist of it is like when social media weren't as big, people probably had to go out there and genuinely kind of like strive and work very, very hard just to get it out there, let alone to get a lot of traction for what they're doing. Like you said as well, with Avon makeup, there used to be ladies selling their brands at the front of your door. And it's true, like, I think even one of my family members used to be an Avon representative. And, you know, in this day and age, it's probably a lot easier. If she had done that 10 years ago, she'd have to go to everyone's door and say, "Hi, I'm so and so. Do you want to buy this? Do you want to buy that?" And it's like, yeah, I think influencing. I don't know. I still try and figure out whether or not it's easier or harder nowadays. What do you reckon, Sarah?
Personally, I reckon it was harder nowadays, but I think the stakes are higher these days, if that makes sense. Because, like you said yourself, there are so many people there now, which kind of turns it into a competition. Like, I've actually noticed from influencing, there's actually been TV shows now made for influencers to go on and do. I can't remember what it's called. Like Total Wipeout. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like things like that, and people are bringing influencers in there, but I've noticed a lot of influencers are mainly girls, but I think influencers kind of stem from celebrities. Like if you become famous, you're instantly an influencer just because you have so many followers. And then like little influencers like us, they kind of look up to them and think, wow, now it's a competition. Like now because they're famous, they've got like 4,000 people in the space of a week. I've reached 20 in like years and years. And I think the stakes are much higher, but I definitely think it was harder back in the day to promote it because we didn't have all the technology like we do now. Like it's a lot easier to become an influencer these days because it's all through the media.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? I'm lacking that you spoke about the media, because I think the media has a massive role to play in someone's success as an influencer. And what I mean by it is this. You see influencers, Sarah's nodding her head because she knows this, yeah? If you're an influencer and you're trying to gain traction, or you're trying to get these big brands to actually want to sponsor you, or at least, you know, like give you the product so you can do your thing, there's a lot of criteria you have to meet. You know, it's not like they're just gonna go up to everyone and go, "Yeah, you're an influencer. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. We'll give you this, that, and then we'll get this, that from it." They need to think to themselves, "Okay, is this person gonna be liable in 5 years' time? What is their follower count gonna be like? How many people are gonna? What kind of attention are they gonna gain?" And a lot of stuff like that. And I think that sort of means, in a way in itself, that if you are an influencer, you have to be a product that people want to have. Do you know what I mean? In some ways. What do you reckon, Sarah?
I think it goes back to the idea of it being a competition kind of, because like you say, influencers do have to compete with other influencers because the support group isn't big between each other. I've noticed that along the time, but you do have the odd couple of girls that will kind of support you. But when it comes to brands, it's understandable in a way, but in another way, it kind of, this is why people never make it as far as they could, because when they get declined once, they're like, oh, well, that's it now. Like, no one else is going to want me. But they need to kind of remember, actually, this is just one brand. Like, so what, they don't want to work with me? There's like 2 million other brands out there. You can collaborate with people in different countries. You know what I mean? It can go so far. But I think when it comes to brands and being an influencer and everything, it does take a totally different approach to the competitive side, because if you don't get selected, then you see other people who are selected. If they work alongside you, you do kind of sit and think, well, what do I do wrong? Like, why don't they like me? Or am I not good enough? But then there are other brands out there who would look at your page and say, like, wow, like, we want you. And you need to remember, it's not about, although brands do go by numbers of followers sometimes, you can't determine a brand by their number of followers, because even if they've only got 1,000 followers, you helping that brand and supporting it, they'll support you back. And as they grow, you're going to be their number one that they come to because you've been there from the start. And I think that's where influencers go wrong. They try to jump straight into the deep end with big, like Pretty Little Thing and places like that, and you're not going to get them if you are not high up there, because that's just how it works. Big brands will not work with small influencers. So you need to look smaller, I think, but take that as a positive, because if you work with smaller people, you're both going to be climbing together, you're both going to be supporting together, they're going to recruit more people, you're going to have more people on your side, and like I said, you're going to be their number one go-to.
100%. I think that makes a lot of sense, man, because I know, like, even through the music I make, it may be on a different genre, but it is still it's the same sort of formula. Like, if you go out of your way as a underground artist who doesn't have that many followers, doesn't have that much, and you go straight to Sony headquarters and say, yeah, I want you guys to help me. I want promotion. I want this. I want the best producer. They're going to look at you. They're going to say, mate, like, you haven't actually got much on that plate that's going to help this plate that we can give to you. So it's like, I would say, like, in that sort of instance, I'd have to go to my friend who's a local producer who's starting off and is trying to get somewhere, because I'm going to get a lot more from it. Think of it this way. If you've got someone who is less popular, he's going to have a lot more to give than someone who's got all this attention at him. Do you know what I mean? Because then it's a thing where that person who's got a lot more publicity around them is going to want someone with also an equal amount of publicity. So it's quite hard. Like, as I see exactly what you're saying, like, with people who are influencers starting off, they sort of need to think about how to build that groundwork in our environment, is basically going for people who are in the same stage as you. I think the hard thing though about it is sometimes it's like you were saying, with some celebrities, they just get that random stroke of luck, yeah? And instead of spending 10 years or 5 years on a craft to try and get to that point that they're at today, they went on Love Island, spent 6 weeks in a villa, and then as soon as they come out, they're getting handed 100,000 deals. And do you know what I mean? Like, I think that also has a big part to play on, like, maybe even like the mental health aspect of influence in today's age. Do you know what I mean? What do you guys reckon might be some of the factors that can affect someone's mental health in regards to influencing? Any takers? Well, I'll start it off in it. Like, I feel like for mental health, yeah, you've got to understand that people who have a market where it's basically based off of how productive they can be, especially in a market where digital is so important and criticism is so important and people's responses to you are so important. That one bad review can turn to 10 bad reviews, can turn to 100, can turn to 1,000. Next thing you know, when you put up a post, people are telling you horrible things. You know what I mean? They're like trying to basically belittle you for no reason whatsoever, except the fact that they feel like they can. Do you know what I mean? And then to me, I feel like there's a lot of anxiety in this department. Do you know what I mean? It must be, because I can only imagine what it would be like to wake up in the morning, know that I want to promote myself, and then have backlash that I didn't want to see. That's the last thing you want to see. Do you know what I mean? Ellie, you said something in the chat, then I'll get to you, Sarah, as well. Yes, Ellie said it's kind of unfair if someone's been working hard for years and then people go on to Love Island, they get deals straight away and miss out who worked hard for many years. It's true, man. And again, this is like, can you imagine the mental strain that causes to people working so hard and then seeing someone else get there better? It's not even about jealousy. It's just about making, like, it's about being genuinely upset that you haven't got the same thing. Sarah, what do you think about that?
It does genuinely make you upset. No, I'm joking. I do think it would be nicer to have a bigger platform for people who have worked hard to get where they are. Like, I'm not saying that celebrities and that shouldn't be recognised, but I think they give influencers a bad name as well, which does stem to the backlash we get off it. Like, once there's one bad comment out there, then the news has to know about it. I've seen so many influencers in the news lately. Like, it seems to be a big thing at the moment, this influencing world. And people see one bad word and then everyone else just feels like it's their place to sit in there and say, oh yeah, you know what, I think that as well. And they don't realise, even though it's just words on the screen, it does do a lot to yourself mentally. But it even comes down to socially as well, because I've known myself, I've got bad backlash back a few years ago, and it actually stopped me posting for it a while, because I was like, oh my god, this is actually really intense. Like, there's so many people out there that will seem jealous but are just there to be horrible, and it does take a massive toll on your mental health, definitely.
Yeah, I can see that being the case, because, like, even with there's so many celebrities that have become celebrities overnight, right? And they've turned into influencers themselves, so they've started marketing things or trying to, like, build a fan base or etc., whatever it could be. Now, you see, if the media wake up one morning and choose to find some little nitty-gritty problem that person had when they was 15 years old, they will drag that, put it on the front page, and then the next day that person's feeling suicidal because of the impacts of that. Do you get what I mean? And I think that is also a big cost of being an influencer in today's age. Is like, right, if you're going to influence, you need to understand that people are mean, do you know what I mean? And they don't always take regard into who you are. Being an influencer, a lot of people on social media just see that person as an image rather than a person. And I think that is a lot of the problems with influencing in itself in this day and age, you know? Ellie said in the chat as well, it means a lot to the person who's getting the abuse. It affects their mood and mental health and personal life. Yeah, completely true, man. Like, just imagine someone who's in like a very stable relationship is an influencer. They hear one bit of bad news that turns into 10,000 bad comments and really affects them. You got to think that their relationship is also going to be affected with other people because that person's not going to be happy. Do you know what I mean? You can't wake up, have these horrible reviews and shrug your shoulders unless you're really built for that kind of lifestyle. And unfortunately, some people just aren't, you know? Sarah, what do you think?
I wanted to say, back in the day, influencing was so easy. Like, I felt so free when I was doing it. Like, post what I want, look how I want. But these days, I feel like because I have that title, there seems to be a certain perception of me that people have, and there's certain images that they want to see. Like, I feel some people don't have the same view as you do. So if you're looking at a photo and you think, oh my God, it looks so good, or like, these jeans look so nice like this, you've got to remember there are millions of people who are probably going to see that and they're not going to think the same as you. So in a way, influencers can't really express themselves as much as they can. And I think that's a massive problem as well, because we can't be free anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Like, just the whole idea of, okay, I want to post something today, and you might be sitting behind your work or your image or your design or whatever it is, and you might be really happy about it, you know? Like, you might be like, yeah, I look good. Or for me, it'd be music, and I'd be like, yeah, this sounds wicked. I'm going to put this up right now. And then my mates might be like, yeah, Raz, that's so sick. But you see, the moment I put that on social media, if a random Joe comes across it and he don't like it, he's gonna be like, yo, you're trash, why'd you even bother? Stick to singing, or do you know what I mean? Like, and a lot of horrible reviews will start pouring out from that. And like, again, it's a whole thing of, do you have thick enough skin to be able to deal with that? Or is it something that is really gonna affect you in the long run? Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Once it's on the media, it's on there forever. Like, I've had people screenshot my Instagram stories and make a complete fake account of me before, and they've like done it in a horrible way. And it's just crazy to know that there's people out there who take time out their day to troll you, to make accounts of you, to belittle you. But again, going back to what you said, you need to make sure before you go in this industry that you can handle that, you can turn the negatives into positives. But also, I've done it myself. I sit there and think, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, like, I'm smashing influencing at the moment. I'm doing so well. And then there's other days I'm like, but do I even want to get noticed? Like, do I want people digging into my life? Do I want to be seen on these ads and have random people question my life and things like that? And I think that's the problem. Once you start influencing, you have that certain goal you need to reach as an influencer. Like, there's such high potential up there. And if you don't come in the game for that, then you kind of just there floating. Do you know what I mean?
100%, man. I feel like that's just raised an interesting point to me. Is like, I've got two things that I'm gonna try and raise a point about. The first one was kind of based on what you just said. Like, you know, influencing is a risk. It's not. It's not just someone going online posting pictures and hoping that it gets somewhere. It's someone opening the door to their life to unknown people, yeah, that can have an opinion, can find out who you are, do you know what I mean? And it's like, sometimes that's really invasive for a lot of people. It's being like, bro, like, I can wake up this morning and someone can think they know exactly who I am.